Let's go back to you, Ntata Mashaba. You were at the helm before in the city of Johannesburg. I think you are aware of the issues in areas such as Soweto. Some areas have in fact been without electricity for over a year. And you heard that gentleman saying some people are going to die because of trying to keep themselves warm. So what is ActionSA going to do in collaboration with Eskom to deal with this matter?
Well, actually very good point that people of Soweto they've raised. And I've already made a commitment to them in writing, in public pronouncements, and I'll be making further pronouncements in this regard. Because for me to really be the mayor of the city of Johannesburg, including Soweto, however, Eskom is the one supplying electricity in Soweto. It's a huge concern. It's something that you don't have control over. I'm promising people of Soweto, say, give us the mandate. We will ensure that you get the electricity from the city of Johannesburg directly, not through Eskom. That's the first thing.
So in the 2 years that you were mayor, or 3 years you were mayor, you couldn't do that for the people of Soweto?
No, I was running a multi-party system with the 7 coalition. No, it was a difficult one. That's why I'm asking. I want outright majority. I'm going for outright majority so that I can speed up service delivery. Because for this matter to succeed, I'll have to really obviously take national government to court to ensure that I get people of Soweto to be supplied directly by the city of Johannesburg. I must be able to really buy electricity from whoever, not only be forced to only buy from Eskom. Us as the city of Johannesburg, through Kelvin, we can increase our capacity to generate more electricity for ourselves. But more importantly, I'm giving this commitment to people of Soweto that through the course of engaged lawyers already, that this debt that people of Soweto, Eskom is claiming people of Soweto are owing them, I can tell you we've got to write it off. Because the current government with the Guptas, they looted Eskom while they were taking advantage of people of Soweto. I'm saying is we will write it off. However, people of Soweto must do things, must also commit to make sure that we allow us as a city to make sure that we have meters for each household. For those who can afford to pay, we as government, what we will do for indigent families, we will give them X amount of electricity a month to use so that they don't have to pay. But we need economic prosperity in this country. And the only way you can drive economic prosperity so that you can deal with the higher unemployment that our people are talking about, deal with high levels of crime, we've got to engage Home Affairs. We have to be unapologetic. South Africa cannot really be a country where failed governments outsource their problems to us. So we need to ensure that millions or whatever number of people who are here illegally, we've got to really deal with them so that opportunities can be created for South Africans. We can be able to deal with crime so that if person commits crime, we know who that person is through, obviously, the identification programs.
Dr. Phalatse, Mr. Mashaba says to write off the Soweto's debt with Eskom is possible. Your response to especially the people there in Deep Kloof saying nothing has really been done in the city of Johannesburg?
I spent a few days in Soweto this past week. The electricity issue is the #1 issue in Soweto, no matter where you go. And it is largely an Eskom area, even though there are areas where City Power is providing power. What's happening in Soweto is that there's been rapid population growth. There's a lot of backyard dwellers in most households in Soweto. However, that now increases the demand for electricity, but supply is not meeting demand because we're not making requisite changes to our supply to make sure that we're taking care of this influx of people into Soweto. So that's the big problem we're seeing. We're seeing transformers blowing up, and so on. Of course, there's the criminal element as well. There's vandalism, there's cable theft. But there is that supply and demand mismatch, which needs to be looked at. Eskom has failed. But I also believe that Eskom was running a model that was never going to work. There's non-payment. There's a culture of non-payment in Soweto. And so it's almost like they've neglected the area because they're not getting anything out of it anyways. That's how I look at it. So what needs to be done going forward? We need to, yes, take over Eskom supply areas. You don't only take over the areas where there's non-payment, you also take over the areas where people are paying. There are areas in Sandton, for instance, that are Eskom supplied. That way, there's a cross-subsidization model while you are working on the culture of non-payment, but while you're also identifying people who require assistance through the expanded social package, which would then target your poorer residents who can't afford to pay. So you deal with the revenue challenges that way. But you need to do consistent assessments of your supply and demand. With population growth, you need to look at how you can increase supply. And yes, we will work with private sector partners. So we will look at independent power producers to help us with our power needs. And we will make sure that we make the environment friendly for business to work with the city.
Dr. Phalatse, let me ask you this. My boss, Sam Jackson, is telling me that I'm running out of time with the both of you. But Mr. Mashaba said something that is striking, obviously, to a lot of South Africans when it comes to how some South Africans perceive the DA. He said, even with the plans that you have, as he went through, the DA is not going to allow you. He said they won't allow you. So how do people then trust that you will represent them if you have to listen to the powers that be within the DA that apparently will not allow you?
I like the fact that you used the word perceive, because it is a perception, it's not reality. So I explained earlier that we were in an arrangement with the EFF that wanted us to only service a certain demographic in the city and neglect another. And that's where the conflict started, because you've got your ratepayers. I mean, I spoke to ratepayers about 2 weeks ago who says, I pay 10,000 rands a month for rates, and I want value for money, and I'm not getting any value for money. I don't have constant electricity. I don't have uninterrupted water supply. Our grass is not cut. And Mr. Mashaba viewed grass cutting as an aesthetic need, when in fact it's a safety and security need. You know, when parks are overgrown, what goes on there? You know, crime goes on the rise. So there's all those considerations. We, as the Democratic Alliance, believe that we service all residents of the city of Johannesburg. Let me tell you what the risk is with Mr. Mashaba's approach, is that you've got now these ratepayers starting to relocate. Some are even emigrating. These are the people who contribute the most to revenue in the city. And you're taking all their money to areas where you're not getting any revenue. You're going to end up in the long run with that kind of approach, with a city with no money to service even the poor. So we need to understand that the poor need the rich and the rich need the poor. And so in our governance model, that's how we should approach it. You cannot neglect anyone. Everyone is important. And that's where the fundamental difference was between Mr. Mashaba and the Democratic Alliance. And that is why he has decided that the Democratic Alliance is arrogant.
Your response, Mr. Mashaba, apparently you only service for certain
honestly,
people.
I think I'll really like Dr. Phalatse, but unfortunately she's facing a mama task of her fellow councillors who used to tell me, and I used to say to the DA, please, I need protection, where they will openly tell me in caucus that why must I provide services, toilets? People who've been living in informal settlements for 20 years with no toilets. We want to provide toilets to them. And you know what they will tell me? Says, why must we take our residents' money to go and service people who don't vote for the DA, who don't pay taxes? And I said, this is an insult. And I'll go to the DA Federal Council, ask the Musi and everyone how many times I went to Federal Council to ask for protection, because you are hurting me. When you expect me, I must live in a city where people don't have toilets, and you expect me to go and cut grass. So, Dr. Phalatse, if you're going to be the mayor of cutting grass in Sandton, and you think our people are going to live in squalor without getting toilets because it's not your DA policy, then I'm afraid. Really, in fact, I think it's an insult to yourself and the people of this country, including the residents that you are claiming to represent, those who you are saying they deserve the service. Because these are the very same residents I used to go in when DA complained. I'll have a meeting in the suburbs and I'll share with them 170 billion rands of infrastructure backlog, because ANC for the last 27 years ignored to upgrade our services, opened our borders. So we're sitting with massive challenges. But I can't live in a situation where people don't live in an informal settlement or squatter camp for 20 years. They don't have electricity. We, the government, coalition government that electrified Kliptown, for 22 years, we you and I, and whatever, DA resisting that, didn't want this, not interested. And I said, we're going to do it. We're going to insource our people. I said, they said, it's not your policy. I said, it's going to become your policy. And they said,
she's shaking her head in disbelief. And I really enjoyed this debate with the both of you, and I'm hoping we can do it again. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. ActionSA's Herman Mashaba, as well as the DA's Mpho Phalatse, speaking to us there about what they have to offer for you. We are voting on the 1st of November, and I hope eNCA has given the two a platform for you to decide who you want to be your mayor in Johannesburg.